of the New Testament was penned by the Apostle Paul. So I have a question. Never having married, what gives him the right to set down the guidelines that govern marriage?
Well, Judy, that's a good question. Can a man who hasn't weathered the storms of day-by-day living between a husband and a wife be qualified to give orders governing the behavior of those relationships?
Let's find out. Thank you for joining us.
You think the fact that the Apostle Paul apparently didn't marry had to do with something about sacrifice?
That's a hard one to answer because he did have quite a lot to say on the subject of behavior, men towards women and women towards men. But he did not appear to be married, not as far as we know.
Well, he even said so in the epistles. He said, I would that everybody would remain as I am, unmarried, so that way you can devote yourself to Christ. So, in my opinion, Paul never married.
Which then leads me to the question, and I think it's a very valid one, by what right and authority and understanding does he have to tell people how to live in relationship?
Well, I agree with you, but the advice that he gives is surprisingly perfect.
Which means that he got his information from?
From the Holy Spirit.
Okay.
Because not having been married, he gives such superb advice to those who are married that if you follow it, you're not going to go wrong. So I've heard that argument before. As a matter of fact, when we finished our first book, my friend said to me, well, wait a minute, but you quote the Apostle Paul all the time. He was never married. What's this all about? And I thought, well, I never really thought about that because his advice is just so perfect and worked so well that I just never made the connection between not taking his advice because he was not married. Well, I just took it and look, it works. The reason I asked about the sacrificial idea is because Paul saw that he was going to have to sacrifice too much and it would take away from his ministry if he did marry. Now that doesn't pertain to everybody though. That doesn't mean that I can't be married and have a ministry and everything. But Paul saw that he couldn't and that the weight that was going to be put on him would have been too great to also service a marriage. That's the way I look at it.
Well, that's how I've interpreted Judy's question on the Apostle Paul's right, or not, to tell us how to manage our marriages.
I think you defended him well, but to our listening audience, what is your take on the question?
Next week, we'll be revisiting Ruth on the subject of abuse in marriage.
She'll be going further in, explaining how the church reacted when it was obvious that there was physical, mental, and spiritual abuse in her marriage.
So don't miss it. God bless and bye for now.
Bye.